So, good morning, students. And today we will be continuing the discussion of the chapter, uh, the natural resources. And today our topic of discussion again will be one of the very important biogeochemical cycle, that is a carbon cycle. And today we will also discuss the oxygen cycle, the ozone, the greenhouse effect. But before going into the discussion of today's topic, let me see your yesterday's or we can say the yesterday topic, how much you have been able to retain. So let me check that one. Uh, so before going or before starting, can anyone say me what do we mean by biogeochemical cycle? What do we mean by the biogeochemical cycle? Anyone? What do we mean by the biogeochemical cycle? Just raise your hand so that I can unmute you and interact with you. Raise your hand. What do we mean or how we can? Okay, Ayush has raised his hand. Okay, let me. Yes, yes, Ayush, you can unmute yourself. Ayush Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ayush, what is a biogeochemical cycle?
It is the process through which changes of energy between biotic component and abiotic component take place.
Okay, very good. The process by which definitely the important materials move from the nature into the organism and back from organism into the nature. Correct, Ayush? You can mute yourself. Yes. Now, before going into the carbon cycle, my water cycle is the water cycle figure is also over here. Who can elaborate the water cycle which we have discussed yesterday? Who can elaborate it? Then I will also give the chance to elaborate the nitrogen cycle. Who can elaborate? Raise your hand. Who can elaborate the water cycle which yesterday we have discussed? So let me see how much you have studied yesterday's class also. Who can elaborate it? The water cycle. Again, Ayush raised his hand. Anyone else? If not, then I will come back. Okay, Pallavi. I think Pallavi, yesterday you also discussed or you have elaborated this. So let me again give chance to Ayush today.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Ayush, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Water from sea, ocean, rivers get evaporated due to the sun heat and goes up in the sky and cools down and forms tiny droplet of water.
Okay.
This tiny droplet of water forms cloud. And these clouds, when they heavy with water, they precipitate on the earth in the form of in the form of rain, snow, hail, etc.
Okay. Okay, Ayush, well explained. Now, Ayush, you can mute yourself. Now, Pallavi, you raised your hand. Now, Pallavi, I am giving you the option to unmute yourself for the nitrogen cycle. Pallavi, you can elaborate the nitrogen cycle which discussed yesterday. I'm also showing you the image of the nitrogen cycle. I'm also showing you the image of the nitrogen cycle.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Pallavi, go ahead with the discussion of the nitrogen cycle, which yesterday we discussed.
In the nitrogen in the atmosphere, it changes by the process of nitrification. It changes into nitrates, and nitrates take the plants and animals in the atmosphere. That process is called atmospheric ammonification, and that fixation is changes into nitrification and then nitrite. And plants and animals that take nitrogen, and when they died, again comes into the atmosphere.
Okay, good, Pallavi, well explained. Okay, so now, yes, Pallavi, you can mute. Okay, now, Today, students, we will be first discussing the carbon cycle, then oxygen cycle. See, first of all, if we are talking about that where or how this carbon is being used, carbon in the form of carbon dioxide is used by the plants to prepare glucose by the process of photosynthesis. We all know this, that photosynthesis is the process by which the green plants prepare their food utilizing CO2, H2O, sunlight, chlorophyll, and ultimately what is formed in this process? Glucose. The glucose which is formed is used to provide energy and to convert into other organic compounds. When animal eat plant, it enter the body of the animal. This we know through the food chain, that the plant are the producers and the animal. Suppose we are talking about the primary consumer, like the herbivore. If they are eating the plant, then the very food goes into the animal body also, which the plant prepared. Now, during the respiration, energy and carbon dioxide is produced. For example, if we say that the glucose has gone from the plant to the animal through the food chain, then in the animal, by the process of respiration, that glucose or the food is broken down, and in this process, ultimately, carbon dioxide energy is produced. We know this. Now the carbon dioxide goes back into the atmosphere, and another process which add carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere is the combustion, that is a burning of the fossil fuels we know, like coal and petroleum. The organic compound in plants and the animals are also converted into carbonates, limestone, coal, petroleum, exoskeleton like the shell of the different organism also. And the carbon is an essential component of the biological molecules like carbohydrate, fat, protein, vitamins, nucleic acid, etc. Now, students, we will be discussing also the carbon cycle. All of you see in this cycle, suppose we are starting the cycle from this part, okay? We know that CO2 is incorporated by the plant through the process of photosynthesis. And now the food which is prepared by the plant, that food goes into the animal. Okay, that food goes into the animal. And the animal, by the process of the respiration, again, give back that CO2 into the atmosphere. CO2 into the atmosphere. Now, what is the process which is occurring over here? Now, if we are saying about this particular cycle here, photosynthesis and respiration is occurring. Now, the organic compound in the plant, or we can say carbonate in waters. Okay, the organic compounds, like the carbonates in the water, like in the process, or we can say like the limestone. Okay, now this organic compound in the plant, that can be converted into coal and petroleum by the fossils. Okay, the fossils of the plant product is forming the coal, and the fossil of the animal products are forming the petroleum. When we burn them, the incomplete combustion, or they are producing the CO2, and which goes into the nature again. And some of the organic compounds of, or we can say the carbon dioxide is being utilized also. It is being utilized also to form the, or we can say that is being utilized to form the CO2 in the atmosphere through the shelled organism. Okay, is it clear to all? Is it clear to all, the carbon cycle? Carbon cycle is clear to all? Okay. Just a moment. Okay, fine. Okay. Yes. Okay, I'm once again explaining the carbon cycle, since many of the students have joined later also. See, the CO2 which is available in the atmosphere, by the process of photosynthesis, the plant incorporate that CO2. Okay. And when the plant produces the product, and what is the name of the product? The glucose. That plant product is being used up by the animals. Okay, so that glucose, or we can say the glucose is going into the body of the animals. Now that glucose, by the process of the respiration, definitely gives back the CO2 into the atmosphere. And definitely some of the students have also said correctly that the plant is also respiring, plant is also taking O2. Definitely that is correct. But during the daytime, the photosynthetic rate is higher than the respiratory rate. And we are mostly highlighting over here the CO2 in the atmosphere being incorporated by the plant through the process of photosynthesis. Now, also, when these plants and the animals, they are fossilized, the plant formed the coal and the animal formed the petroleum. So when after the combustion of petroleum and the coal, they give back into the atmosphere the CO2. So completing this cycle. Also from or we can say, just a moment, let me show you the previous slide also, so that you can have the the organic compound present in the plant and the animals are also converted into the compounds of carbon, like carbonates, limestone, coal, petroleum, exoskeleton. That means the shell of the different organism. We have come across the phylum mollusca, where we have seen the shelled organism. So in that also, the organic compounds are converted into the compounds of the carbons. Okay. Is it clear to all those students who have asked to re-explain this? Is it clear to all? Yes, exoskeleton, outer skeleton, indo, inside. Okay, fine. Okay, okay, yes. Now we are coming to the next cycle, that is the oxygen cycle. This is very simple in the nature, because we know that oxygen, you can see directly here, that oxygen in the atmosphere is used for respiration, combustion, formation of the oxides of elements. Oxygen is sent back into the atmosphere during photosynthesis. And oxygen is an essential component of biological molecule like carbohydrate, fats, and proteins. So here you can see that the atmospheric O2, by the process of, we can say, the respiration, is taken up by the living organism, whether we will be seeing the plant or the animals, and in the process CO2 is produced, and also water is also produced, and in the process of the photosynthesis, this CO2 is being used up to produce the glucose molecule, and during the process of the photosynthesis, oxygen is also liberated back. So this very process, or we can say this very equation, is, or we can say, a cyclic manner in which the oxygen is being circulated between the living organism into the nature, and again from the nature into the living organism through two very important vital processes, and that is photosynthesis and respiration. Is it clear to all students? Is it clear to all the students? Okay, yes, I'm seeing your remarks. Okay, fine. Okay. 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 Now let me come to the next part, that is a greenhouse effect. Now, the gases like carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbon traps the heat radiated by the earth and prevent the escape of the heat from the earth. As a result, the presence of these gases in the atmosphere causes increase in the temperature of the atmosphere, which is called the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect definitely can melt the polar ice, increase in the sea level, flooding of the coastal area, and submerging. That means we are saying that the sun is, or we can say from the sun, the radiation which are coming is being trapped by the covering of the gases like CFC, the carbon dioxide, methane. But if the greenhouse effect, as we are saying, that if these layers of the gases are going to be thicker and thicker because of the increase in the pollution level, then definitely the average mean temperature of the earth will increase by a lot. And as a result, the adverse effect will be overall global warming, melting of the polar ice, and increase in the sea level, or it may cause a flooding also as the polar ice melt. So this phenomenon need to be checked by reducing the pollution level. Okay, so after this, okay, is the greenhouse effect concept clear to all? Is the greenhouse effect clear to all? That how this the global, or we can say the greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, chlorofluorocarbon. Student, here carbon dioxide, methane is a very common one. Chlorofluorocarbon, can you tell me that from where we are getting this chlorofluorocarbon? This is a man-made synthetic compound, or we can say synthetic compound responsible for the ozone layer depletion. Okay, okay, AC and refrigerators. Okay, very good. It is used in air conditioner refrigerators. Definitely correct. Now, after this, students, we are coming to the ozone layer. Now, see, students, what is the ozone layer? The ozone molecule contains 3 atoms of oxygen. It is present in the upper layer of the atmosphere. It is a poisonous gas. It protects the earth from the harmful ultraviolet radiations from the sun, which is harmful for the living organism. Actually, students, see what happens. In the upper atmosphere, oxygen, which is a biatomic molecule, it, in the presence of the ultraviolet radiation, breaks into oxygen atom. And when this oxygen atom combined with O2, O2 plus O, it leads to the formation of O3, which is the ozone. Definitely the ozone is a protective layer over the atmosphere, as because it protects the earth from the harmful UV radiation of the sun. But to our knowledge, or we can say as a natural phenomena, the ozone layer is getting depleted. Can you give me any one possible reason for the ozone layer depletion? Can you give me any one possible reason for the ozone layer depletion? Just now we have discussed in the greenhouse gases also. Can you give me one possible reason for the ozone layer depletion? Mainly, yes, mainly the CFC, that is a chlorofluorocarbon. Correct. Chlorofluorocarbon. Yes, correct. And as a result, the ultraviolet radiation are entering the earth. And what can be the harmful effect of this ultraviolet radiation, which is entering the earth through the depletion or the ozone hole? What will be the effect? Can anyone through the, okay, raise your hand so that I can unmute you. Raise your hands. What will be the effect of, okay, Shweta. Okay, very good. Shweta first raised her hand. Okay, let me, okay, Shweta, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
What will be the
It
effect?
causes cancer.
Skin cancer.
It causes cancer, skin
Okay.
cancer, blood cancer, breast cancer.
Okay, okay, good, Shweta. You can mute yourself. Okay, yes, definitely. Eye cataract, eye problem, skin problem also arises due to this. So this is all about the different aspects which we have discussed in the chapter, the natural resources. Again, I'm telling you, student, this chapter, the natural resources, is not meant for the terminal examination. It is there for the internal assessment. So we can be giving you projects or any assignment on the basis of this chapter. So altogether, we can say all the chapters of which were there in NCERT of biology, we have completed that. even the deleted one also, all the chapters we have done. Now, regarding today's class, I would like to interact with the student who can elaborate the carbon cycle which is depicted in this image. Who can elaborate? As we have discussed, now I want to have your feedbacks also and see how much you have incorporated. Okay, Pallavi raised her hand. Okay, if someone is raising their hand, I will give the chance to the student who is first raising. Okay, Pallavi, you can mute yourself, unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Pallavi, go ahead for the carbon cycle.
CO2 in atmosphere is present, and during the process of respiration, the plants consume carbon dioxide and make the food. That glucose is consumed by the animals, and when the animals respire, that gives out the carbon dioxide. Again, that carbon dioxide goes in the atmosphere. When we consume the water that is formed in the limestone, when they complete combustion, help the coal, petroleum, and the inorganic substances of cells, that is skeleton of the some animals that burn, and during the process of combustion, that also release the carbon dioxide and goes in the atmosphere.
Okay, fine. Okay, very good. Okay, Pallavi, very good and well explained. Anyone more who want to speak for the carbon cycle? I will give the chance. Many of the students want to speak also. So no problem. I will be satisfied more when I will see that many of you you can explain also this. Any of more students who want to explain the carbon cycle which is depicted in this image? Anyone? Piyush, yes, Piyush, 1 minute. Yes, that time Piyush, you have. Yes, Piyush, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, sir.
Piyush, go for the carbon cycle elaboration.
Sir, it is a process by which carbon compounds are interchanged among the biosphere.
Very good. Yes, go for it detail.
And sir, first, when carbon present in atmosphere absorbed by plant for photosynthesis, and then these plants are consumed by animals.
Okay.
Then they accumulated into their bodies.
Mhm.
These plants and animals eventually die, and upon decomposing, carbon is released back into the atmosphere.
Okay. Okay, Piyush, well tried. And okay, fine. Okay, you can mute yourself, Piyush. Now we are coming to the oxygen cycle. Who wants to say about it? Yes, Shweta, would you like to? Okay, let me give you the option. That time you raised your hand. Yes, Shweta, you can unmute yourself, Shweta. Shweta, you can unmute yourself to elaborate the oxygen cycle operating in the nature. Okay, again, Pallavi raised her hand. Yes, Shweta, I think there is some net issue from your side. Okay. Okay, then I'm giving chance to the student who raised her hand, Pallavi. Okay, you can unmute yourself, Pallavi.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Pallavi.
In the form of O2, oxygen is present in the atmosphere during respiration. Oxygen is inhaled by the plants or the living organisms. And again the respiration, through process of respiration, CO2 is released, and then CO2 is used by the process of photosynthesis by plants, and the organic molecules, that is glucose, is formed, and also during respiration AO is, and the process of photosynthesis, it is also used and released in the form
Okay, Pallavi. I think Pallavi, there is some network issue from your side. Okay. Okay, well said, Pallavi. Fine. Okay. So students, today's assignment will be for you that practice the schematic diagram of carbon and oxygen cycle. Practice the schematic representation of the carbon and oxygen cycle. Okay.